real loss of their assets, the toxic assets that they're holding, they're letting them make up what they want. Come up with fictitious numbers, and you're going to start seeing bank stocks going up again. It's fake. And what they're doing is they're changing the regulations on the top so the big thieves could steal more while they're clamping down on the little people. And the little people have had it.
These stimulus plans were, both with former President Bush and with President Obama, were rushed through so quickly. And you make a comparison to the way that the U.S. launched the war in Iraq with this urgency.
Well, they push it through so the people are kept off guard, and they put fear into the people's hearts. Fear. Remember the mushroom cloud that was going to explode if we didn't act very quickly with Iraq? And remember the financial system was going to collapse if we didn't save AIG? And who ever knew what AIG was to begin with? You know, what's an AIG? I never heard of one before, most people would say. When the AIG plan was rushed through, the only person outside of the Federal Reserve and Washington to sit in on that AIG bailout was Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs got $13 billion of taxpayer money so they wouldn't take a loss on the AIG bailout because they bet bad with AIG. Oh, and who was the Treasury Secretary at the time? Oh, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Henry Paulson. Oh, and who did Obama bring in to run AIG now for the government? Oh, Ed Liddy. And where's Ed Liddy from? Goldman Sachs. The fix is in, the game is rigged. Forget about calling this government. Wall Street has hijacked Washington.
So now what?
We need a revolution. And we're going to be talking about that more in the future. And we're going to be announcing our plans for revolution in the coming weeks. And they're going to be much greater than the Tea Parties or the tax revolts. My morality and the way I was raised, there are two things in the moral code that are against everything that I was taught. And forgetting about the religiosity of it, but just about the morality of it. The first is that you don't kill innocent people. And the United States is involved in killing innocent people both in Iraq and Afghanistan. The facts speak for themselves. It has been proven that Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction nor ties to Al-Qaeda. Yet the United States is still waging war in Iraq. And number two, this whole thing about Afghanistan taking over the country for whatever reasons, and the Russians know it better than the Americans, and the English knew it before the Russians. This has been going on and on. The Afghanistani people have done nothing to the Americans. And now President Obama has sent another 21,000 troops into Afghanistan. So, killing innocent people is against my morality. The second part of the revolution, why we're calling for a revolution, is that we're getting robbed in broad daylight. The numbers and the facts, as we've discussed, speak for themselves. They're pickpocketing the little people to pay off the big guys. This is against everything that has ever been taught to us in this country growing up as a free market society. It's fascism.
When somebody calls you a doom and gloomer, somebody that's scaring the public, what's your response to that?
My response is, suppose you go to a doctor, and then you feel that there's really something wrong with you. And the doctor gives you a diagnosis. And the diagnosis may be cancer. Do you call the doctor a gloom and doomer? It's the fact. People better grow up. The ship has hit the iceberg. It's sinking. We're telling people, just as the doctor would tell the patient, look, there are ways out of this, but first we have to recognize what the disease is. And then we're going to have to be very inventive about trying to attack it in a number of different ways. We could go through complementary medicine, we could go through traditional, we could go through a combination of things. But you respect what the doctor is saying, and you don't call him a gloom and doomer. It's a childish response that people have that want to believe that they have a new leader, and the new leader will lead them down the yellow brick road of happiness, rather than understanding there's nobody behind the curtain. It's the Wizard of Oz. They better grow up. Nobody's going to save them. So when we put out the information, we're saying, this is the direction things are going in. This is where we believe it's going to end up. Here are some strategies to consider so you don't go down with the ship.